Hi, Osho. As your term as VP Finance comes towards an end, do you want to give us a summary of everything you've worked on?
Sure, it's gonna take some time, but it started off with the budgeting process where I had to look through the financial status of the SUO and figure out what each line in the budget meant, who's responsible for it, how much money was spent in the previous years, what the plans are in the upcoming year, and a lot of negotiating, figuring out those numbers, and yeah, finalizing that by the end of the summer was the first major task I had. Following that, it was a lot of learning about the day-to-day transactions that the SUO is involved in. It's very administrative and approving transactions, payrolls for the staff, honorarius for the student leaders, and so on and so forth. That takes up about 60% of my time throughout, so that never stops and that keeps going. And student associations, that is also a major part of my role here. Recommending funding and sending out communication to these student associations and making sure they're in line with their regulations when they submit their expense forms, and chairing the student association funding committee. These are all part of my main responsibilities. I've also taken up additional responsibilities in the committees that I sit in. So obviously I sit in the board and the executive committee, but I'm also in the finance. I chair the Student Association Funding Committee. I sit in the policy committee. I sit in the campus life committee. I sit in the Student Affordability Task Force, that's a UBC committee, and very recently joined the Generative AI in Teaching and Learning. That's also another UBC committee. And I'm also part of the Building Steering Committee. We've yet to do any work, but still there. So those are additional tasks, and a few personal goals of mine. They're updating the website of the SUO so that we have a better platform for students to get information about what goes on in here, and creating a very comprehensible transition document for the next VP Finance that takes my place.
So, out of all the things that you've done, what are you most proud of to have accomplished?
Student associations, working with a budget of 170,000 plus another 19 from deactivated student associations, and making sure that we start changing the process to enable the success of student associations. That's been one of my major focuses, and it's a very challenging task because it's not just simple regulations, it's not just enforcing regulations, it's a lot of meetings explaining. I don't think I've had a day where I don't come to the office to meet a student association, so I'm pretty proud of the process that I built, and I know not all student associations would be happy with the funding they've received, but a lot of thought has been put into it, and there's no template for how to do this. I never got a transition document or anything like that, so I'm building the process from scratch, and I'm hoping that it solidifies by the end of the term and moves on to the next leader.
So when you were contesting for elections, you told the Phoenix, and I quote, that you will work on increasing transparency, breaking down every aspect of the budget, and providing information in a convenient channel for students to see, updating the website, and even creating an app so these points can be seen easily, and improving the parking situation. You also said you'd make the Phoenix summarize the board of directors meetings bi-weekly. You spoke about some of these points, but how much of this were you able to implement, and why could you not achieve the rest of your goals?
Well, to start off, I can't make the Phoenix do anything. They're an independent media content creator, so the Phoenix has full jurisdiction as to what they publish and what they want to say to the students. But none of these goals have been forgotten. They're still being worked on. The platform to increase transparency and convey this knowledge is the website that we have on the SUO. I have considered putting important information on social medias like Instagram or Facebook, but it makes more sense to have it on an official platform like the website. Those are the updates that I'm talking about. Right now, if you go to the website, you'll notice that there's an events calendar at the front page, which didn't exist before. And now there are new links to student associations under handbook that makes it so much easier for student associations to submit forms or figure out what it is that they need to do as a new club. These are constant updates that are being made, but one of the bigger things that I'm working on right now is when you go to the website, you see view services, replacing that entire thing with a highlights sort of page, and that's where I hope to put the summaries of the board meetings and other meetings, and even maybe say, hey, this is when the meeting's happening. So if students want to come join the meeting, and that's their platform. So the platform is still being worked on, and that's the transparency side of things. In terms of parking or overcrowded study spaces, that's another thing I mentioned, and I believe increasing prices. The major problem behind it is a space issue. It's a pretty massive, multifaceted problem that can't be tackled with a budget of $2 million from 12,000 students. It's very much something that UBC needs to look into, and the need is clear. The petition came with 1,000 signatures to have the field house created, and now it's passed and that's going. But if we focus on initial ideas like building a new SUO building and have those spaces out, and hopefully reduce parking prices or something like that, how much more would students be paying, right? There are all sorts of these questions that could come up and have deeper answers than we initially see. These are definitely things that are in my mind, and always have been on my mind since I ran for the elections, and they've not left. One of the reasons I sit in the UBC committees like the Student Affordability Task Force is to figure out what we can do as students in this standpoint, and work is constantly being done. It just might not be that visible.
For the person coming in office after you, what do you think is the most important thing to focus on, and what are key issues that you think will be spoken about during this election season?
Could you repeat the first question?
For the person coming in office after you,
Yeah.
what do you think should be the major focus, and what do you think needs to be worked on going forward?
For the VP Finance role in specific, it's less to do with the student advocacy. It's less to do with campaigns that you see maybe Lakshay do or Kate be involved in. Their face is a lot more out there than the VP Finance is. And that's because my role, just by how it's structured, is a lot more day-to-day and administrative. It does feel like I'm a full-time employee here sometimes, and understanding those processes, not signing documents without reading them, knowing what it is that the SUO does is one of the most important things that the VP Finance in the future needs to understand, because that controls everything. If you just go with whatever you're given, less accountability will be held for a lot of the student leaders and staff alike, and that's one of the most important roles that a VP Finance should know.